because I already made some comments on how I've been thinking I need a big map on my wall and then those little tiny sticky notes, and so that I can remember who is in what time zone and in what country. Just a huge one up here on my wall that I can, see. You have even more reason to have this tribute behind you, Lewis, to what occurred in your life. I know that you gave a webinar in just November, just weeks ago. And I know that you said to me that you were strategic about how you used what you were given so that you could stretch what probably would have been 12 months, and you were able to stretch that even farther. And you had just a rich, amazing experience. And I'm thinking right now about previous guests who would be going, where's my pen? I want to know about that spot, because those guests live, within a number of kilometers of places that where you were, and they might just want to go visit that area themselves, because yay for being able to reach around the world, or just, across to another city, thanks to StreamYard and LinkedIn and YouTube and everyone that I want to thank. I want to shake their hand and go, thank you for allowing me to promote the good that people like Lewis and Ben and Tim and Tanis are doing. So Lewis, world traveler, literally, not even stretching it. We're 2 minutes in. That means I've been jabbering the whole time. I'm stopping. It's you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Christine, for having me. So as you mentioned, with my Watson Fellowship, so the Watson Foundation, they basically fund a year of independent travel for graduating graduating college seniors within their institutions. So I was nominated by my institution, Davidson College. I submitted a proposal of visiting different nursing homes. I'm very passionate about just nursing homes and older adults because I was the primary caretaker for my late grandmother, taking care of her for a decade of my life. So from 10 to 18, I was really intrigued by our situation and wanted to know what other people in other countries are doing, especially in a country where we speak the language. So we speak Spanish. So being able to go to Latin America, but also push myself and go to countries like Nepal, where I don't speak the language, don't know nothing about the culture. So it really enriched my cross-cultural understanding of care and made me think about what can we do here in the United States to improve the aging situation, especially in the coming years. I'm not sure if you've heard about like peak 65, as many people are continuing to age. So now that I'm back here, I'm trying to figure out what can we do better, specifically here in Chicago, where I reside. I'm currently one of the volunteer ombudsmen for the city of Chicago. So going to different nursing homes and understanding what's happening and being able to support older adults.
Is that LTC ombudsman or a different?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yay, long-term care.
Yeah.
I had to learn all this. When a person said to me, you'd make a good caregiver, it was blink, blink, blink. Oh, you mean work at a nursing home? And I said, well, there's a lot of different ways. But I ended up being a hired caregiver to go into individual homes. And you had that opportunity too, to just be with older people. Did you sleep in a nursing home?
So actually, my favorite nursing home that I visited, Community Home Australia, they allowed me to sleep over their nursing home. It was a 24-hour immersive experience, and it was really great to understand the dynamics because their philosophy is truly a community embedded. So it felt like, I was visiting my grandparents or an aunt and uncle. It didn't feel like I was in an institution. It was very deinstitutional, which was very great.
It is great. Wow.
Some just recent one in Tasmania, one in the Sydney area, would just be like, yes, that. Okay, you said peak 65. Am I saying that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that yet. Does it have to do with being 65 years old?
Exactly. So in the coming years, in 2025, 2026, the demographics here in the United States, there's going to be a lot of people reaching the age of 65.
So I am a scary, scary person, turning 65 in a few weeks. So I'm part of this, it's like there's this rumbling in the distance. And then here come the gray buffaloes. And it's like, oh, we're going to be overrun with people. And I'm just going, yeah, but I actually did sleep on a cot at the foot of someone's bed who was in their 90s, because that is what was asked or required. I actually did be in, I would say, a neighborhood of independent living, and saw how people greeted each other in the morning as I made sure that my person, ambulated to where they could be with others. And there was just this joy of, oh, here we are. And, I'm so glad to see you. And I just thought, I think they're just so glad that they didn't go away in an ambulance or have fallen during the night and are not coming out of their own residence or whatever. I can just have a touch of what you said. I am not the only one on the screen who wants to hear more about what you did and also what you felt. There were 3 points that I recall from your webinar. I am going to swing around to someone who was not afraid to come back on the screen again. Ben said that he had a good experience 2 years ago, January 2023. And he's got some new stuff coming along. So thank goodness we do have the majority of an hour. So Ben Beddick, you also have something that's fresh and shiny and new, and you just took off the packaging. And boy, you're putting out, now that, I've contacted you and posted you, it's like, it's coming across my feed and I'm like, does he post that often, or do you just like have a renewed excitement about what you're offering? And I do want to say FREE, it's free. So that's a very good price. So Ben, Ben, you were a combat medic. That's the one that makes me stop and go, that is not a large group of human beings who can say that they've been a combat medic, but you have put yourself in situations, a lot of situations, podcasts, book writing, and you have a nursing degree, and there's just more and more and more. So I'm going to stop again and let you go, Ben.
And thank you for your kind introduction there. And I'm super grateful to be here on your platform, sharing with everyone listening or taking in this content, however you've come to it or whatever brought you here. I hope that we can bring you something of value that will really inspire you to create a finer world. Ultimately, whatever roles I've had, it's largely, wanting to make our world a better place, to prevent suffering or reduce suffering or alleviate suffering in some way. And that's been my focus. That's taken on a number of different shapes and forms and different things. But the thing that I'm focused on right now is wellpublic.org. So it's well-public.org, which is a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3 where we integrate tech, wellness, and education to create emotionally intelligent solutions for public service organizations. So basically, it's alleviating suffering, preventing suffering, and doing that in a way where we merge education with tech and wellness. And so when it comes to caregiving, some of the focuses that I've been focused on lately with my team is biometrics, being involved in caregiving having real-time data. So not just helping those that we're caring for, but also for the caregiver, right? We know so much of caregivers undergoing tremendous amounts of stress when you're watching your loved one go through some extremely troubling challenges or brain changes over time. The health of everyone involved is very important. And so for us to support that process so that it can be that tremendously rewarding, satisfying, relationship building process where we give to those who have given to us, where we are present with those that we care about deeply, and wanting to give them a rich quality of life into whatever they're experiencing that day, that night, that moment. Those are the things that we're focused on in what I've been doing lately. So I'm happy to share more about that. I certainly want to ensure that everyone gets moments to share the incredible work that they're doing here also. But that's what I've been focused on lately.
In case someone has had to walk away from the screen, but they can still hear you, can you just tell us how they can get to see? I'm tuning in on the education part, because if you don't have the how to or the why for, and it's like, sounds cool, but I don't know what I even need to know. But in case someone has walked away and isn't looking, on the screen, or, thanks. Thank you to my hubby producer. Go ahead and say how they can get to that free information.
Sure. So well-public.org, or you can go to my personal website, benbiddick.com, and you can go there and get as much information as you like. We recently just released a free course that you can access where it helps older adults navigate Facebook safely so that they can have connection, hopefully reduce some loneliness, and ensure that they're able to see those updates on what their grandkids are doing, or just be involved in a group online, whether that's something associated with a hobby, whatever it is. We're just trying to reduce isolation. And so that's an offering that we have. So if anybody that you're caring for just needs a little assistance to get onto Facebook, to do that in a safe way, to ensure they're not sharing financial information or having people take advantage of them with scamming or false accounts or things like that, but still being able to access and have rich relationships with others virtually if they have mobility issues, or if family members or friends are living in different countries, as we've talked about here, ways to stay connected during a time when people are dealing with loneliness. That's a free course. All it takes is a login, and you can help help the person that you care for stay connected. That's an offering. If that's of interest, again, well-public.org.
Thank you very much. Now, Tim and Tanis, this is, it's just like, no, it's not just like, because in my situation, metaphorically, my husband grabbed me by the ankle and dragged me into social media because I didn't wanna. And he said, but the things that you are, in my mind, things are dreamed up, frameworked, fleshed out because of my years of not knowing answers to questions and wondering, why am I the only person in this house full of adults, some who benefit from my presence because I'm an extension. I dust that thing. I do an activity. I expedite those sundry items that a person needs to get done so they can get on to what they really want to do today. And the others were the maybe family who deserved a moment to go, oh, I'm not on duty at this moment. Christine's got it. Okay, why am I the only one with a badge and I don't know answers to questions like, is there a better device that we could be using for safety in the bathroom? Either asked by my client or by, and I'm like, Why don't I know these things? Where are the billboards that are telling me this? So this is my billboard. You guys are in this big rectangle saying there is a resource, there is an invention, there is information that has been created in such a way so that you can take it in and go, yes, I've got this now. I know what I need to be looking for. I know even words that I need to be Googling to find a device that will give me or give my loved one more independence in just, like I said, taking care of those sundry daily activities, things that you took for granted that you could open and close a door easily. And now there's an extra challenge to it. So thank you so much for being up here on my billboard. And I get to tell you too, for the first time, when I was at a point of being a hired caregiver, when I felt like I just really need something more. It was great because I actually applied it to several different places. And one of them just handed me a CD with a name on it, Teepa Snow, and said, you'll want to watch this. Then I was hired by a place, and I really loved that whole community because I had visited so many of my people that I had been some sort of assistant for, and that decided to move into that community. And they had a satellite where they sent me into private homes. And they said, oh, and part of your paid training is watching videos by Teepa Snow. And so Teepa went with me, though she did not know it. She went with me into those homes where I was writing down notes about what I had learned from my people, both the ones who were hiring me and the ones that I spent the most time with, so that I could approach a situation without making it escalate, or so that I could ease the mind of a person who said, I'm going to drive 20 minutes away. I promise I will call if something goes really awry. I promise I will not leave you out of what you're used to doing, maybe day after day. And there you were on a screen with the lady herself, and her daughter came onto my screen and talked to 4 of my previous guests. And we just had a little, Ask Amanda time. And she just rose to the occasion. And then the real show happened after the end of the hour, when everyone went, oh, phew, we're off camera now. You know what I really think about such and such, blah, 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 blah. And they just went at it. So we'll stay all nice and polite for the actual broadcast, unless, I don't know, maybe you guys, feel so at ease now in front of a camera that you'll be like, no, this is real life with us. So Tim and Tanis, I'm so glad that I get to know more about you and about why you've ended up on people's screens.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Yeah. We appreciate the opportunity to reach out to more people and meet awesome people like yourselves, hardworking, caregiving types, right?
Yeah, so. If it wasn't for people like you guys, EchoBox we wouldn't be on these screens. First of all, hello, great to meet you all. And we by all means, I don't think we should really be here. We don't have a caregiving background. We don't really like technology all that much. We're not really good with business. And so here we are. But we had an idea that basically was inspired by a gentleman who used the sound of his wife's voice on an answering machine. She'd passed away. And so he listened to it when he was down or when he needed inspiration. And his service provider lost, or they upgraded their system, which meant everyone had to make a new recording. So for this gentleman, he lost the sound of his wife's voice. And the video we saw was the team finding it and giving him the sound of his wife's voice back. So huge touching moment. And after we had a minute to think about it, we kind of realized, there's not too many options, technology and seniors. It's not, it's a difficult kind of mix. It's a lot for them all at once. It's complicated. Most big businesses focused on younger generations that have more money to spend. And so it's fast and flashy. And we just felt terrible for this old man that was relying on a single snippet of ribbon, basically, to listen, to access his wife's voice. So we started EchoBox off like as a doodle on a napkin on our kitchen table, and that's no joke. And our pilot model was just about capturing grandma or grandpa's voice, favorite songs or movies, smells, stories about childhood toys, just preferences and comforts, things that they love about life. We saw it much more as a family-based legacy piece. I think that's where we kind of got a little bit of attention. We had some local news coverage go national here in Canada, and we kind of used that to that kind of propelled us into possibly reaching out to the BBC in the UK, because that was the broadcasting corporation that we saw the original video of the gentleman from, and they wanted to do a follow-up story. So all of a sudden, EchoBox was on the BBC international. It went from our napkin to international in about a year and a half, but that was really just the starting point. Caregivers from all over the world started saying, this is going to bridge the gap in dementia. It's going to be, it's going to combat caregiver burnout. It's going to be a leading technology in person-centric care. All of these things, the hair on my arm is actually rising right now. But yeah, we kind of had to pivot. I think we kind of grew us up. We took our little idea, which we thought was cute and lovey-dovey, and it suddenly became, people were calling it, a tool, and revolutionary, groundbreaking, all these things that we were being called entrepreneurs, which is just not, it still makes me itch all over.
It's a big learning curve.
Right. Yeah. But I guess to wrap it up, in the last couple of years, people like yourself have informed us of what this daily struggles of the ins and outs of caregiving, what people really tackle on a day-to-day basis, and what sundowning is, and what LTC, long-term care, is, and all these different, we're just drinking out of the fire hose all of a sudden, trying to make sense out of it. And it's really helped us simplify our design. We had to go right back to the drawing board and start all over again. It's been timely, it's been time consuming, and it's been costly. But again, every single month that goes by, something else happens. We get support from the government, or we suddenly get invited down to Austin to go to a conference for hospice care, and we're just, eyes wide open. And so, yeah, long story short, we just launched our current model a few months ago, and we tested it in groups all around North America. And we're just about, before we go into a marketing campaign, we're going to get into some facilities here locally, just to try to engage communities with capturing the little things about life that people love. Nothing like medications, nothing like schedules. It's just what Ben was talking about, emotional intelligence, just kind of what makes people tick. And, there's whether we're talking about a rotating door of care and people like having to be introduced to a community and learn all of these things at once about people. We've been told that we can be like an instant cheat sheet, so that all of a sudden you can genuinely really get a feel for what people are about. And if they're struggling through a change time or a meal time or a shower time, put on their favorite song, light their favorite scented candle, and talk about something about their childhood. Before you know it, they're happier, you're happier, they've been changed, you're moving on to your next duty or responsibility. And we didn't see this coming. So it's kind of like the proof seems to be in the pudding, because we didn't know we were making pudding, and we're trying to prove anything to anybody. So we're just trying to make it work now.
Oh, wow. You described that very well. Tennis, am I interrupting you? Were you going to add one more thing?
No,
I did all the time.
No, you did. I was just going to say, it's been an incredible journey, and we've learned so much. And we're loving it, and it's our main motivation, and we couldn't be more excited to continue trying to forward the technology.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is just personal. When were you in Austin?
Last February, about 11 months ago.
Okay. We were here in April
Okay.
for the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
So I just wanted to know if we were crisscrossing. We were an hour, 90 minutes away in Waco, which we ended up moving to Waco, Texas.
Okay.
So now it's Central Time for us. We used to, when Ben was doing this, I was in Oregon, and it was on Wednesdays, and we made a lot of changes, which one of our friends said, it's kind of like you're graduating from high school again. You're like, what do we do? The kids are all grown up. They're spread out. And I said, we didn't do it on purpose. So similar to you, we did not go, let's go on a vacation and find a place to move to at all. But I'm really thrilled to be in this hub and hubbub of people going, and this is what else we want to be doing about aging, for people aging. Oh, for us, we're aging. We're going to be them before we know it. What is the them thing? Them and us kind of, here I am about to put my saddle on that fence of being 65 and, and I'm just going, I'm excited. I call myself the hashtag aging enthusiast because I'm enthusiastic about aging informed, being informed about my own aging, other people being better informed about how they will better age, or they can help someone else who's having some typically aging challenges, which can happen anywhere on the spectrum. But I just wanted to know when you were in Austin. Thank you, all of you, for pouring into something that really doesn't have, okay, the bucket is full, so I can stop and walk away. It's been done. Because then, like you said, someone else comes along and goes, oh, that really helped in this situation as I'm dealing with being sandwiched between two thick pieces of bread, all of my aging loved ones, and situations with all of my younger than me loved ones, and all this. And boy, it really helped with. So I'm going to throw out my one idea. About 10 years ago, I was the assistant, and I thought, if we could, in this situation of a type of dementia, if we could assure this person when they become so, you're just wigging out, where is that guy I usually see? Where is he? And the search and the intensity of negative emotions and the just desperation. And it's like, if we could put a wig that matches some of these pictures that I see on that loved one and have that person just play Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, looking directly into the camera and going, I like being with you. We have picked some vegetables together and just talk it like, nothing that says what day it is or, something that they need to answer, but just that reassuring talks like, I like the way you look. And that person could just go, I'm here with someone familiar, and now I can relax. And they love me. I feel the love. So that the person, when they don't have their wig on, to make them look like they did during the era that this person has in their mind now, so they can actually have their own moment of a shower or fixing a meal or walking to a mailbox or something and know that that person will still be there, fully engaged, feeling safe and everything. So that was my idea 10 years ago. I didn't make it. You guys did. You created. I am so grateful. But I knew that that's what was needed because this person had sounded familiar, but didn't look familiar anymore. And I'm like, oh, so you're capturing those moments that are going to stay familiar as long as there's eyesight and especially they can hear it and see it over and over again. So it's kind of that imprinting thing. I don't know. I just get really excited. I'm geeking out. Louis, I want to get back around to you because you gave a webinar. Was that kind of a requirement of being selected? You were what did your college do? They recommended you?
Yeah, so they simply nominated me. The webinar was something completely separate. I just did it on my own. So the unique thing about the fellowship, basically, they just require you to have a quarterly check-in. And then at the end, there is an end product. The person is the end product with the lived experiences that they had in their travels.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So you had an end product.
So I basically created like a presentation and then the website. Now what I'm hoping to do, more on this notion of knowledge sharing is how are we sharing with other people resources and information, specifically in some of these countries like in Nepal and Latin America, where this is an emerging new idea of, living apart from the family, or what does it mean to be in a nursing home? What is a good nursing home? How are we providing person-centered care? Because some of these countries and facilities, they'd be doing person-centered care, but they wouldn't call it that. And then other people were doing some other types of models of care. So understanding, okay, how are we, providing the care, but also thinking about how can we improve the care and how are we adapting to the evolving needs of older adults? Because I know when I cared for my mother and grandmother, I was constantly thinking about like how am I adapting what I'm doing to their needs, because their needs wasn't necessarily stagnant throughout. It was constantly changing. Eventually when they became nonverbal, how am I developing a nonverbal way of communicating with some of these people? So I understand how can we communicate later on when they reach that stage. And that's the beautiful thing in some of these countries that I went to, where I didn't speak the language at all, especially like when I was in Brazil, because I don't speak Portuguese, even though it's very familiar to Spanish and Nepal, was understanding this notion of nonverbal way of communicating. Like you don't necessarily have to speak the same language to communicate with one another. So how are we, taking away the status quo of our verbal communication and thinking about our body movements and those types of things? Because with my mother and grandmother, for example, frequently like collar pulling was a frequent form of communication, but a lot of people see that as a threat. If someone's going like this to you, you see it as a threat, but you shouldn't necessarily think about it in that way at first.
Thank you. Thank you for loving your mom and your grandma. Thank you for having the presence of mind and I would say the heart to say, I'm going to have to be creative or think of a different way. They deserve to be able to express themselves. Mm-hmm. And I haven't heard of that before. I mean, to someone who hasn't been in the caregiving situation, the collar pulling. But before I had any training at all, this is going to be super brief. It was a family member, didn't understand what was going on. There's that time between being clear thinking and then there's this spot where it's like, well, that was odd. Well, are you sure that really happened? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, all their life they've been right, and they've trusted their own wisdom on things. And so I made the mistake of reaching out and grabbing onto what they had in their hand and pulling it, because I was kind of freaking out about what was going on with behavior I didn't understand. I didn't live with this person. And this person saw me as a threat suddenly, or it seemed suddenly to me, because as I spent time with them in the future weeks, I realized that they were seeing themselves changing, and actually explained how they were keeping up appearances, how they were not letting someone know that they were seeing and thinking and experiencing things that they could recognize that didn't make sense. Something's going wrong, but I don't want anyone to see this because I don't want to be put in one of those terrible places. And that's what was, spoken to me. So thank you so much for being there with them. And your story seems like, oh, that hardly ever happens, that someone's a primary caregiver at such a young age. And it's like, no, that actually happens a lot. And it's just, it's not brought out. And one, person that's half my age said, why would I want to go to school and even explain what it is that I'm doing for my loved one when I'm not at school? Because I didn't know anyone else that was doing anything like that. That's not what they were talking about. They were talking about extracurricular activities and, dates and going on vacation. And none of that was part of my life. So it was just best to just kind of hide the fact I'm a primary caregiver and I'm in my teens. When you gave your webinar, which I haven't seen it yet, but I love to have, people's episodes and everything, something that I can have going while I'm typing content. I love to hear good content while I'm typing, because I don't know, my brain gets happy about that. Were you part of a panel? Was it you alone? And yeah.
So I was just presenting on it was just myself. So I just presented on what I did throughout those 10 different countries, different facilities that I visited, and my main takeaways from those facilities. So I think, as our society in America continues to age more in the coming years, we need to really reimagine these nursing home spaces as community centers. So how are we opening the doors of these facilities and allowing more interaction? So for example, where I went to elementary school, not too far, there's a nursing home. So how are we involving kids from that primary school into this nursing home and vice versa? So for example, I had an art class. Well, instead of painting an apple, I can be painting the face of an older adult, or they can be painting mine, and so forth. So thinking of those interactions, because there's definitely still exists ageism within our society, and it has detrimental impacts in our overall health. So thinking about how are we breaking down those barriers and really trying to embed more community embedded support, because whether we like it or not, we're all going to get older and older. And depending on where we live, who we are, that really varies. And it shouldn't be that way, because we're all human beings.
And it really shouldn't, because we're all human beings. Why should there exist a slight, it's okay to bully someone because we're just laughing about the fact that they don't walk as fast as they used to. Once again, this nameless group of, well, you know how old people are, and it's like, wow, do I have to prove that I retain the value that I had? Do I need to entertain you in some way or stand out. It's like, go ahead and stand out and be entertaining and surprise someone that they're just like, I didn't think anybody your age could do that. Go ahead, but don't make that the basis of, if they're not communicating in the verbal sense that they did up until this point, then there's nobody there anymore. And I had to learn that. I needed to just be informed, and I needed to stop thinking, well, I don't know what to do when they don't react in a way that I think is rational. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that I get to advance in age and turn and look back even at myself and how I have learned to love aging, love that this is like, oh, like our friend said, graduating from high school again. Now what are you going to do or be? Or how are you going to help others to feel like they can assist you on something you really want to do and not be losing your independence, your their honor, their respect. It's like, I need to delegate some stuff out to you. So anyway, Louis, was there a particular cultural thing that really surprised you, or that you were like, if I had not experienced anything else, this was crucial?
That's a really good question. I think this idea, when I was in Nepal, it was interesting to understand and be in communities where they didn't understand what was Alzheimer's, dementia, and just see how people there was less of a stigma. People were simply being people, which was caring for their loved one. And specifically, one thing that comes to mind, and you probably all have experienced this if you know somebody living with a neurocognitive disease, is basically how sometimes people lose their ability to pick up food with using a fork and everything. So they would typically use their hand. Well, in Nepal, it's very common and part of the culture to eat with your hand. So it was very beautiful to experience that, be in a community and space where people are eating with their hands and not have any stigma. Because in all these previous countries that I went to, there was always somebody correcting an older adult. And even in my family included, with my grandmother, with my mother, they were like, use a fork, use a spoon. And that always breaks my heart, specifically with my grandmother, because I remember when she started doing that, I was like, okay, grandma, let's eat with our hands. It's okay. Obviously making sure that our hands are clean and whatnot, but being able to, again, accept a human being and allow them to become in this stage of becoming instead of this stage of conforming into using a fork, using it. Because if it's hard to pick up the fork or spoon, how are we accommodating to someone's evolving needs? So it was really beautiful to be in a space like Nepal and experience that firsthand, where it's actually the norm and part of the culture to do. So every morning, every lunch, dinner, we would be using our hands to eat. And it was hard, I will admit, at first, but the month that I spent there, it was very eye-opening and really cool to just like realize, like, hey, I left a spoon or fork at home. That's okay. I can use my hand. And again, how are we normalizing that instead of having a stigma? Because in a lot of other cultures, for example, when I was eating a pizza here in the United States, we could eat with our hand. Well, when I went to one of these countries, they gave me a fork and a spoon. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I would not be eating my pizza in this way. So I would say Nepal really enriched my understanding of how it's okay to be outside of the boundaries of quote unquote the norm. Simply, how are we making sure we're doing things that are okay?
Wow. It's like a little brochure. Welcome to the culture of neurocognitive disease living. This is, what you're seeing is actually wonderful and part of life in Nepal, and have a family go, oh, I guess I can be okay now that my dad's not using a fork. It's like, okay, so this isn't going to be more stigmatizing, or I can just look at it a different way. And he is going to feed off of my body language and the sound in my voice anyway. He's going to know I'm not upset about exactly what he's doing. So I love it. Hey, Ben, I want to make sure that I swing back in and say, were you working on something different, or was this already hatching 2 years ago when we were talking on screen?
Well, it's just a different format for, ultimately the goal is to reduce suffering, right? So this is some opportunities just open where that unique formulation of some situations are for profit, which allow certain benefits, some nonprofits, and some different resources that we had became available. So how can we best serve the need that's out there? And as you're hearing, from your amazing guests here, it's that human experience, and every human going through the experience of living from birth to aging to death, the entire continuum of the experience of living, and the awareness of being alive during and throughout to create this experience in a humane, compassionate, and celebratory experience. It's tremendous. We oftentimes get very skewed and distracted from the humanness of our experience. And that's what I love about your guests and what they've created, and what it looks like, Tim and Tanis, in what you've done is, it sounds like it even shocked you, the response of that human experience, and how deeply people wanted that, needed that, craved it, desired that connection. And with the brain changes that happen, and how music and sound and auditory stimulus it's one of the last parts of the brain, right, to be damaged or to be harmed. And so our humanity can last so deeply with that auditory function. And is it Louise or Lewis? How do I pronounce your name, sir?
Lewis is fine, either or.
Yes. Okay. And I just super inspired of the human connection there, and super curious, those experiences in Nepal of different approaches of how people view death, or view, the experience of living, and how in the West and the East, we have lots of different concepts about what exactly is a rich and full experience of living. And so just super interested in hearing you all speak. And Christine, as you have gotten yourself out of your comfort zone and into certain things where you're magnifying the voice of others, and taking your compassion for others and your experience of caregiving and magnifying that. These are all human experiences. And so that's, whatever form or service that I've been involved in, it's about that human connection. And if we magnify that, and we're meeting people where they are, and we're helping them feel a sense of wholeness, a sense of connection, a sense of celebration, even as our capabilities may decrease or change or increase in other ways. It's just that constantly shifting experience of living. And so whatever format that is, I want to add those quality experiences, and I want to reduce the suffering of others. And so yeah, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's something where we're doing biometrics to help caregivers manage their stressors, or when people with a form of dementia are experiencing some brain changes where they're not able to communicate their needs. Well, with some biometric data, we can see that their blood pressure is rising, or we can notice that there hasn't been a bathroom break in 3 to 4 hours. So chances are, maybe if they're expressing some dissatisfaction, some behaviors, maybe some combativeness, maybe it's just that they need to use the bathroom because we haven't had a bathroom break for 3 to 4 hours, or their blood pressure is decreasing, or their glucose is low. Like all of these different biometric indicators, we can help people speak who may not be able to speak with words. And so to do those types of things, it leads to that human experience of, I'm going to be present with you. You're not alone. And where suffering exists, where we're not able to communicate our needs, well, we can use some technology to help with that, or some education to help a caregiver understand of, I don't know why their behaviors increase. And maybe it has to do, like what Tim and Tanis have talked about, the sundowning process. Maybe that's what's happening. And so if we can increase communication and go beyond what we're used to, or a language, if we can speak that transcendent language of compassion and care, like Lewis has been talking about, where he's taken his experience with his loved one and made it a global understanding, that's the ultimate compassion. And so as far as my situation, it doesn't matter the form, but that's the meat of it, is let's create that compassion in what we do and create an experience.
Nice.
You would be a great host if only you had a podcast. Good. I'm glad you laughed. How many podcasts are you doing now? Because I've seen 3.
Yeah, we have the Well Public podcast, which focuses on tech, wellness, and education. And then in the past, I've done the Get Up Nation podcast and the Resilient Caregiver podcast. So those are a few. If people want to check that out, you can go to benbiddick.com and sample some of that content if you're interested in that, and if that resonates with you.
Yay. Hey, Robertses, do you hear the segue? Whoop. Did you guys just have a podcast drop?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did today.
Yeah, we were on Love Conquers Alls with Susie Singer Carter and Don Priest out of LA, I believe. Yeah, they're great, super welcoming.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun.
We usually sweat bullets while we're on podcasts, so it was nice that it was a little, it was nice and relaxed like this one. So it was, we just work ourselves up, but they're great. And they just dropped it, I think, last night. And we got a little email saying, spread the word. So this morning we were busy doing that. And almost late for this one because we were just trying to do as much as we could before we jumped on. So, but it was fantastic. They are great people.
Oh my goodness. So I see aspects of aging, quotes around it, because it's the title that I gave to what I thought I wanted to do, which apparently is true because I started in August of 22. So this is what I want to do each week. I think of it as this low, like it's over not a really deep chasm, but there is a gap there. And so I think of it as a low and wide bridge just to get across maybe a little seasonal creek or something. And I see that this has become, I guess, my opportunity to watch collaborations happen, to hear people encouraging each other right on screen, going, that, makes sense. This is something that goes with something that, one of my colleagues is working on. A few weeks ago, one guy that's been on before, he goes, hold on a second. So you over on that screen are planning to come to my community, and I work at my city, and I work at assisted living community, and I should know about that. And now I know you because I come on screen. So that's what I think of as a really wide bridge where people can walk across maybe 5 or 6 at a time and get to know each other over this little chasm that I think of as, I didn't know that person yet. I didn't know what they did yet. That could come in helpful in the future, just to know that there's somebody that's doing that exact thing. I think of Susie Singer Carter, especially with awards and movies and all this stuff. And I think of Teepa Snow as people who that's that like the bridge that they're making in Corpus Christi, Texas, which looks like two giant Manhattan towers that they've built to put the bridge on. I'm just looking at it going, how do they even, oh, I don't want to know. That's, that's an engineering, huge bridge, and that people are more aware that they can go to them for those resources. And I really feel honored when people who can be on the big bridges come to mine. And I feel honored when a person says, you know what? I feel like I'm ready. I feel like what I've been working on, I can really express more succinctly, or deliver in a way that if someone does click on it, they're going to get something of value there. So I just feel honored in both ways that, I get to walk across this bridge with you, and that you know of each other. And who knows, there's going to be something that's just going to connect very well, some think tank or some let's get this problem solved, that maybe someone will go, what was that thing called again? Yeah, that she was on screen. She jabbers a lot, but she means well. And she brings people in, and they have these great innovations, and they tell a little about their own personal story, and that maybe someone's going to look back at the archives and go, there it is. Now I know what that guy's name is. Now I know where I've seen that woman before. And, oh, that's the name of their company, their product, their book, their course. Oh, my husband will often say, so you had fun again today, didn't you? I was like, yes, I love these people. They are answering questions. They are giving people what they need to continue living. So it really needs to cross out aging and just have a living better network. But I think people recognize that the challenges happen regularly, or there's more noticing of it, because the people that are working on the answers are also aging well, and maybe that's benefiting a family who has a non-verbal child, or a child with a different neurocognitive challenge, going, wait a minute, if that works for them, maybe that would work when we're trying to figure out, are they in pain and they're just not able to express it? And if something good happens there too, all the better. We're at a perfect moment for each of you to simply say where you want people to be able to go. And if it can be repeating again what you said earlier, and then I'll wave and let you go on with your day. I am so grateful that each of you, I say sculpted out, because it isn't just that you chopped a spot in your calendar, but you made sure that you showed up and really gave something of substance for the sake of a person you will never meet, but you know what it's like because you've walked in their shoes and you've walked alongside them. So thank you so much. Let's go in reverse order. Tim and Tanis, what do you want people to remember for sure?
Well, you can check us out at echobox.ca, so echobox.ca. That's our website. And that's where you can learn everything about us, our story, some of the wonderful caregivers we've encountered on this big journey. And you can join for free and check out the technology. And if you like what you see, then sign up.
Tell a friend. Tell the whole bunch.
Yay! And for uspeople.ca is yes, Canada, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You bet.
Good.
.com was taken.
Or that.
Yeah.
Ben.
Hi, thank you so much for anybody taking in this content. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you for Christine for hosting. And it's been an honor to be with such amazing guests here to be sharing. And so I would encourage anybody who's interested in building solutions involving tech, wellness, and education to learn more about what I'm doing at wellpublic.org, or you can just go to my website, benbiddick.com. Thank you.
Yay. BenBiddick?
That's correct.
Good. I was looking at the camera instead of reading the thingamajigger. And Lewis, who
Again.
has different ways to pronounce his name, and said, let's just go with Lewis today. So he gets to, put on his alter ego at times. What do you want people to remember?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me today. Check out my website if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my travels, watson.ljcordero.com. And feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you'd like to continue the conversation. I'm still working on a final paper and reflection of my entire travels, but trying to also disperse it to those other people in other countries. Because again, a lot of people, especially here in the United States, we're working in silos, but we need to be networking and talking to one another to really develop solutions where it's going to benefit all of us. Because as I said earlier, we're all aging and getting older and older.
Exactly. And that's a good thing. Hey, bye, you guys. Thank you so much. I'll let you go on with your day. I'm grateful that you were here, that we were together. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.